I never expected that Tuesday night in 2019 to change everything I thought I knew about what it means to be human. The lights were blazing down on me as I stood center stage at the Hudson Theater, sweat beading on my forehead under the hot Broadway spotlights. Burn This was in full swing, the audience hanging on every word as I delivered my lines with the intensity that had become my trademark. But something was wrong. My peripheral vision caught movement in the front row, a man, maybe mid-40s, gripping the armrests of his seat so tightly his knuckles had gone white. His chest was rising and falling in rapid, shallow breaths. His eyes weren't watching the performance anymore, they were darting around the theater like a caged animal looking for an exit. I'd seen that look before. In mirrors. In fellow Marines. In my own reflection during the worst nights after I came back from Afghanistan. The first act ended to thunderous applause, but all I could think about was that man. While my castmates headed to their dressing rooms, I made my way to the house manager. "The gentleman in the front row, seat 12, I said, still in full costume. "Is he all right?" The house manager's expression grew concerned. "Actually, he approached us during intermission. Said he was having a rough night, mentioned he was a veteran. He's trying to decide if he should leave." My heart stopped. I knew that crossroads intimately, the moment when you're drowning in your own mind and have to choose between fighting through it or running away. The moment when you need someone, anyone, to throw you a lifeline without asking questions. Where is he now? Backstage hallway, trying to get some air. I didn't hesitate. The show, the hundreds of people who'd paid to see me perform, the professional obligations, none of it mattered in that moment. What mattered was a fellow human being who was fighting a war that nobody else could see. I found him leaning against the brick wall, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. When he looked up and saw me still in full stage makeup and costume, confusion flickered across his face. "You're supposed to be on stage," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "No," I replied, sliding down the wall to sit beside him on the cold concrete floor. "I'm supposed to be exactly where I am." We sat in silence for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. I could feel his breathing gradually slow, matching mine unconsciously. I didn't ask about his service, his tours, his nightmares. I didn't offer empty platitudes about, "Thank you for your service," or, "It gets better." I just existed in that space with him, two Marines who understood that sometimes the hardest battles happen in the quiet moments when nobody's watching. "The sounds," he finally said, staring at his hands. "The theater, the crowd, the music, it took me back." Suddenly I wasn't in New York anymore. I was back in Fallujah, and the applause sounded like gunfire, and I couldn't breathe. I nodded. The mind plays tricks. It thinks it's protecting us, but sometimes it traps us instead. "Why aren't you angry?" he asked suddenly. "You left your performance for a stranger. People paid good money to see you up there." I thought about it for a moment, really thought about it. Because 6 years ago, I was you. Different place, different trigger, but I was drowning in my own head with nobody around who understood. A fellow Marine sat with me in a parking lot outside a VA clinic at 2 a.m. and didn't say a word for 3 hours. He just sat there. "That's the only reason I'm here today." His eyes filled with tears he'd probably been holding back for months, maybe years. "The worst part," he continued, his voice breaking, "is that people expect you to be grateful just to be alive. They don't understand that sometimes being alive feels like punishment when your mind won't let you live." The second act was starting. I could hear the music beginning, my cue approaching and passing. My understudy would have to step in. There would be questions, disappointed audience members, maybe angry producers. But looking at this man, this fellow warrior who'd served his country and was now serving time in his own psychological prison, I knew there was nowhere else I'd rather be. "What's your name?" I asked. "Marcus." Staff Sergeant Marcus Chin, retired. Well, Marcus, I'm Adam. And right now, I'm not an actor. I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a Marine who gets it. We talked until the show ended. About the war, yes, but also about everything else, his daughter's upcoming graduation, his struggles with civilian life, his love of woodworking that helped quiet his mind. When the theater emptied and the lights dimmed, he looked at me with clear eyes for the first time that evening. You didn't try to fix me, he said, standing up slowly. You didn't give me some speech about moving on or getting help. You just made me feel seen. 3 months later, I received a letter. Marcus had started attending a veteran support group. He'd reconnected with his daughter. He was building furniture again, creating something beautiful instead of being consumed by the ugly memories. He ended the letter with a simple line that I've carried with me ever since. You showed me that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is simply show up as a human being. That night taught me something profound about the nature of performance and authenticity. I'd spent years perfecting the art of becoming someone else on stage, of losing myself in characters and stories. But sometimes, the most important performance is the one where you stop performing altogether. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is strip away the costume, the makeup, the character, and just be present as yourself, flawed, broken, but undeniably human. The theater world buzzed about my unprofessional behavior for weeks. Some critics called it a publicity stunt. Others questioned my commitment to the craft. But every time I doubted my decision, I thought about Marcus's words, you just made me feel seen. In a world that often feels increasingly disconnected, where we're all performing versions of ourselves on social media and hiding our struggles behind carefully curated images, there's something revolutionary about genuine human connection. It's messy. It's inconvenient. It often comes at the worst possible time and requires us to abandon our carefully laid plans. But it's also the most real thing we can offer each other. That Tuesday night in 2019, I learned that sometimes the greatest act isn't the one you perform on stage, it's the one you perform in the quiet moments when nobody's watching, when you choose to see another human being's pain and say, simply, you're not alone. Marcus still sends me pictures of the furniture he builds. Each piece is more beautiful than the last, crafted by hands that have learned to create instead of destroy, guided by a mind that has found peace in the present moment. And every time I step on stage now, I remember that the real performance, the one that matters most, is the choice to show up fully as ourselves, especially for those who need to know they're not invisible. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more incredible stories to come.